Trump wasn't on the ballot, and shutdown were the two reasons the Republicans lost elections tonight. Oh, what a clown. What's going on, party people? It's another great day to be in the USA. So, Dick Cheney is still dead, rest in piss. And we had massive Democratic victories last night for this off-year election. So I definitely want to talk about those and what that means for the future of the Democratic Party. But before I get into it, please make sure you like the video. And if you're not already subscribed and you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe. Okay, so let's get into it. Trump is coping and seething on Truth Social about last night. Oh, the reason that we didn't win is because Trump wasn't on the ballot and because the government is shut down. It's like, okay, for one thing, Trump absolutely is on the ballot. Trumpism is on the ballot. There's not a single elected Republican in this country or any Republican running for office that disagrees with Trump in any meaningful way on anything. And so the reason that the Democrats shellacked Republicans is because people hate Trump and Trumpism. They hate what the Republicans are doing. And this was a massive referendum on Trump and the Republicans. So, like I said, I could go all day about all of the things that Trump has done to ruin this country in the very short time that he's been in office this second term. But what I do want to talk about is what these victories actually mean. So perhaps one of the most exciting ones of the night last night was actually Zoran Mamdani in New York's mayoral race. Beat Andrew Cuomo by a margin of 8%. He won a little over 50% to 42%. So 8% is a massive victory in a country that is as bifurcated and as divided as we are. And I think that most of the Cuomo votes were literally just people who are afraid of the label Democratic Socialist. It's not that like people really liked Andrew Cuomo. They're just afraid of somebody like Zoran. But the reason I'm excited about that one is because Zoran Mamdani is the future of the Democratic Party. He can't run for president, but he is the blueprint for how the Democrats can notch massive victories for decades to come if more Democrats run a campaign like Zoran. So I've said for as long as I can remember, love Bernie Sanders. Bernie's always been fighting for the right policies. He's very on message. He doesn't take money from billionaires or corporate PACs or any kind of big money donor. And he fights for the right things. And my only real, whatever, I don't want to call it like concern, but the only thing is like Bernie's old, all right? Bernie's in his early 80s, like 82 or 83. So I don't think he's the future of the party, but what he stands for is. And Zoran is young. Zoran is like 34, and he basically ran on a bunch of the policy that, somebody like Bernie would support. He ran on making New York City more affordable. He ran on doing like free buses. He ran on taxing billionaires an additional like 2% or something like that. And their response was they absolutely flipped out and they started just shoveling millions of dollars to Andrew Cuomo. Like, please, God, do something to stop this Democratic Socialist from taxing us a tiny bit more. Which, if we're real and you have billions of dollars and your money is not making at least 2 to 3% a year every single year, I mean, like, at that point, your wealth will compound no matter what you do. So we have to tax those people because, one, nobody needs $1 billion. Billionaires should not exist. And two, it just makes no sense to not do it in order to fund programs that would help everyone. And so the reason I'm excited about Zoran is he offers the play, the playbook, the blueprint, whatever you want to call it, for how to run and how to win that doesn't involve giant corporate donors and billionaires funding your campaign. And so if he can even accomplish just a tiny bit of what he's proposed, I think that would be super, super beneficial to the Democratic Party as a whole, and especially if the Democrats actually take a lesson from that playbook. Now, they didn't with Bernie, even though Bernie was like the most popular and still is probably the most popular senator in the country. But the centrists have lost to Trump and Trumpism 2 out of the last 3 presidential elections. So, like, literally, they've had their shot. They've proven that they don't actually have what it takes to beat fascism. And the way that you really fight fascism is with real leftist policy. I think it was Ron Placone back when he was on the Jimmy Dore show before Jimmy went insane that said that there's nothing pragmatic about an incremental solution to a catastrophic problem. And they used to always talk about like being a pragmatic centrist or whatever. But that's the thing, is that like you can't meet a fascist halfway. And what you have to do is you have to win over people that are gettable. I mean, you have to win over those people and make the argument for your policy and not capitulate. And that's what Zoran does. And Zoran is not only like he's young, he's charismatic, he fights for the right policy. He's able to win over people who were Trump voters. So like I said, I think super important for the future of the party. Really excited about Zoran in New York City. So we also had Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. She won the gubernatorial race over the Republican Winston Earl Sears by a pretty wide margin as well. It was 58-42. And so that's a 15% win in Virginia. Now, Virginia is technically kind of a purple state. Glenn Youngkin was, I guess he's the current governor. He's a Republican. And for Abigail Spanberger to beat the Republican candidate by 15 points, that is enormous. That is an enormous win. Now, again, just to get back to the thing with Zoran and being the blueprint, my fear is that the party will say, well, look, we ran a centrist Democrat, Abigail Spanberger. She won by a larger margin than Zoran did. Therefore, the centrist is actually more popular. Therefore, we should continue doing the same bullshit that we've been doing. But you got to remember that, like, Zoran ran as a Democratic socialist against the most well-known name in New York politics. I mean, like, he ran against Cuomo. Now, Cuomo was, like, a deeply flawed candidate, but 8% over somebody who's got a political career as long as Andrew Cuomo, that's huge. So, again, happy Abigail Spanberger won, beat the Republican. That's big news. Like I said, I just hope they don't take away the wrong lesson. The Democratic Party doesn't take away the wrong lesson and say, well, we have to continue on with our centrists and you know, like our like meet Republicans in the middle, whatever. You have to actually propose policy that people want to go out and vote for, not just I'm going out to vote because it's not Trump. I think that's what happened in 2020, honestly. I think that Joe Biden was a terrible candidate and that literally a ham sandwich could have beaten Donald Trump in 2020. He was that unpopular. And I think that that's what's going on right now as well with the Republican Party, is that, again, Trump is on the ballot, even though he says, I'm not on the ballot. Trump is on the ballot and Trumpism is on the ballot. And because everything that they're doing is so deeply unpopular and destructive for the country, that people are like, anything but this. Anyway, I want to move on to New Jersey. So Mikey Sherrill, the Republican, beat what's his name? Schitterelli, the Republican candidate, and she also wiped the floor with this guy. It was 56% to 43. So again, 13-point margin, massive victory. You got to remember, like, this country, we're so divided that, like, anything over like 4 or 5%, that's a huge win for one party or another. And this was 13 points. So again, that's really positive. Again, Mikey Sherrill, I think kind of a centrist, not super exciting. I hope that the lesson is not, oh, we should stick with more centrism because the centrist won by more of a margin than Zoran Mamdani did. Pennsylvania, Supreme Court justices. There were 3 Democratic support justices that were up for, should they keep their seat or should they not keep their seat? And all 3 of them won by an average of 61% yes to 39% no. So that's an average of 22%. And this is important because Pennsylvania is not a blue state. Pennsylvania is a swing state. Pennsylvania went for Trump in 2024. So to have all 3 of them win by that big of a margin, massive, massive win for the Democrats again. And so, again, it's really positive. I think a lot of this is just backlash because Trumpism is definitely on the ballot, and this election is a referendum on how the country feels about Republicans currently. And then lastly, the other one that I'm really excited about was Prop 50 in California. So this was Gavin Newsom's idea to combat what the Republicans are doing in Texas. Trump, if you remember, asked Texas to give him 5 more congressional seats. And so they're like, yeah, sure, we'll do mid-cycle redistricting and just come up with extra congressional seats to ensure that that the Republicans win 2026 and retain the House. So just completely never been done before. They're just doing it to try and rig 2026. And Gavin Newsom's response is, well, if you do that in Texas, I'm going to do the same thing in California. Here's the difference. Gavin's doing it the Democratic way. He put it up for a vote. He said, do you want us to redistrict? And basically what he's going to do is wipe out whatever the Republicans do in states like Texas. Now, the Republicans are doing this all over the place. They're doing it here in North Carolina as well. But the point is that Prop 50 won in California by a huge margin. A huge margin. So it was, should we redistrict? 64% voted yes, 36% voted no. So that's a 27% margin on Prop 50. And the important part about this is, again, this is a blueprint for other governors in other blue states that listen, it's okay to do this. You have to fight fire with fire. The fascist freight train is not going to slow down on its own. And again, incremental solutions to catastrophic problems, you can't try and not do that. You have to respond. What they're doing, they know that the Republicans know that they cannot win elections legitimately. It's why they gerrymander. It's why they scream all the time about voter fraud when, statistically speaking, it is closer to 0% than it is to 1% that there's voter fraud in elections. But they scream about it all day long because they want an excuse to be able to throw out ballots that aren't going to vote for the Republican. And so with Prop 50, again, what this is, showing the rest of the country, especially Democratic governors in other states, is that if you put this up to a vote, the voters will absolutely say, yeah, we don't want to just give away more seats to Republicans because they decide to do it in their state. So you have to fight fire with fire. And I think the biggest lesson to take away from yesterday is, one, democratic socialism is popular. Zoran Mamdani is massively popular, and I think he's the future of the party. And two, you do have the ability to combat fascism. There are levers that the Democrats can pull in order to fight back against what's going on right now. And so I think that's super important, and I hope that other Democratic politicians follow the playbook of people like Gavin Newsom and people like Zoran Mamdani. All right, cool. That's all I got for you right now. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.